As breathtaking as they are, orchids can be pretty intimidating flowers. Just remembering the names of your favorite blossoms is often a feat in itself.
So you've got oncidiums, you've got paphiopedilums, you have phlegmopediums, you've got phalaenopsis, masdevallias, cymbidiums.
And assuming you get past the tongue-tying nomenclature, there's the other challenge, keeping the darn things alive. But fear not, help has arrived. David Stanley is the Orchid Wrangler, an award-winning orchid florist from West Hollywood who's made it his mission to make orchids easy for the rest of us.
People have a real phobia about orchids because they just don't understand them. They don't know how simple they are. And a little bit of an understanding of how they grow helps you to understand how you can better take care of them. And once you understand that, it's a piece of cake. This particular genera is the Oncidium, or you can call it sweet ears.
I like sweet ears. I think I'll stick to that.
There's a great Oncidium that's out there if you want to ask for it by name. It's called Sherry Baby, and it's S-H-A-R-R-Y-B-A-B-Y, Sherry Baby. It looks like this, except it's kind of a purpley crimson color, but it smells like chocolate.
Oh.
It's sort of like a cross between vanilla and chocolate, and it will perfume an entire room.
Orchids first took root in Stanley's life with this now thriving plant that he found 15 years ago on a friend's porch, shriveled and nearly dead.
I took it home and I watered it, and I put it under a tree, and about 2 weeks later it just completely inflated. It lifted up its leaves, it started growing new roots, it looked beautiful, and 3 months later it bloomed so gloriously. I mean, it was like Easter Sunday, and that was it. From that moment I was completely transfixed, and I just had to learn everything about orchids, and that's where I started my collection.
And as his orchid collection grew, so too did his near encyclopedic knowledge of the flower.
That's how an orchid grows in the wild.
Very interesting. It
Isn't that
looks
great?
like an alien.
Yeah, well, that's why people thought they were parasites. I mean, it's very ominous looking. It looks like it's sucking the life out of a tree. But it actually isn't. It just attaches themselves. They're very clever. This flower mimics a moth that lives where this plant lives out in the wild, and the flower looks exactly like the moth.
It does look like a moth, doesn't it?
So what happens is moths land on it, try to mate with it, and that's how they pollinate themselves and continue their species.
This one behind me here, this is an orchid,
great.
right?
I love this. This is Vanilla planifolia. It is a long vine that grows along with these beautiful variegated leaves. I have it growing on a manzanita branch, actually, but it's just one long continuous vine that snakes around. It produces a flower that lasts for only one day. It has to be pollinated that day, and if it does, the seed pod that forms afterwards is what we know as the vanilla bean.
It's this enthusiasm that's grown Stanley's business steadily for 8 years, earning him 2 Best Florist in Los Angeles awards.
Somebody said to me once, do what you love and you'll never work another day in your life. And I was like, wow, and I think that makes a big difference.
These fragile flowers also made a big difference in the lives of Dennis and Laura Keeney. Their 4-acre orchid farm is in northern San Diego County, where Stanley buys many of his orchids.
Actually, they show better when they have 3 or 4 flowers open.
The leaves on these are just impeccable.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time with the leaves. You know, they only grow 3 or 4 leaves a year, so the employees know that they're golden.
For Dennis Keeney as well, all of this sprouted from a backyard collection 25 years ago.
And it was just a hobby that got out of control.
I can see.
Yeah.
Today, Keeney ships more than 5,000 orchid plants a month, sharing his colorful passion with the rest of the country.
These, I just think, are delicious. These colors are magnificent.
Yeah, these are really vibrant. Now, they call the smaller flower, still a phalaenopsis, they call it a novelty.
While Dennis Keeney tends the greenhouse, Laura Keeney arranges the orchids and captures their colors on camera for their retail website. For them and for Stanley, orchids represent far more than a livelihood.
What's the draw? Why do people love them so much?
Well, they've always been exotic and hard to come by.
And they're understated, but very stately at the same time. They're just a universal flower.
I think they just take people away to another place. I think you look at them and you just see how unbelievably beautiful they are, and they usually aren't something that people grew up with. You know, you grow up with roses, you grow up with dandelions. It really is kind of like an adult thing to discover and understand and appreciate an orchid, and I think that fascination about them and these faraway places that they come from is really what compels people.